Presence of the jury. I appreciate everyone getting back here on time. Thank you. Mr. Kalbaugh, does the state wish to be heard?
The state has a brief matter for the court. Just it came up in Mr. Schmonzi's opening, and it came up twice in Mr. Lee's opening. There was a pretrial ruling about witnesses being able to testify as to other co-defendants being convicted, charged, and I think both of them violated that. Whether it was intentional or not, we just wanted to remind the folks of that. Once we get into calling witnesses, that doesn't keep coming up and up over and over.
I agree with the state's recitation of what the pretrial order was. Does anyone want to be heard on that issue, or are there any open questions around that issue?
Not at this time, Judge.
All right. To the extent the state's view is no harm done, I agree with that. But to the extent that the state's additional view is that should not happen again, I agree with that as well. So I'll expect all parties and witnesses to abide by the pretrial orders. Mr. Hughey, has the state had a chance to admonish its first witness?
We have. I have one additional matter for the court. Short one.
Sure.
One opening statement referred to the crime classification of riot as felony riot, and then another opening statement did that as well twice.
I agree.
The state's view is that's not appropriate commentary on the classification. We're not asking for any remedy other than to instruct that not go on anymore.
Okay. I think largely that is. I think the only other time there would be an opportunity for that to come up would be in closing arguments. We can talk about it at greater length when we get closer to that. But for now, I agree. Referring to a crime as a misdemeanor or a felony is not useful to the jury. It is confusing. And it will not happen again. But if anyone else wants to be heard closer to closing, we can do that. Anything else?
No, the state's ready with witnesses.
Very well. I'll invite the clerk to bring in the jury, please.
Okay, would you like me to leave the record running, Judge?
We will stay on the record.
Okay, we'll stay on the record. I will go ahead and get the jury.
Okay, while we got a minute, when I turned the stream back on, I didn't realize I had the microphone muted from the court. There was some complaints that when the defense made their opening statements that they referenced other defendants that had already been convicted, and there had been a pretrial rule that they weren't supposed to do that. So they're saying that that the state doesn't see any harm done from it. They're just basically asking that they not do it again. And then the admonishment that he was talking about was there's things that they want to make sure that the witnesses don't say that would rule or that would run counter to the evidence rules that have been gone over last week, and that's the state is just making sure that the witness they're about to call knows those restrictions to help reduce the risk of them saying something they're not supposed to, then have an objection, sustain it, then have to tell the jury not to listen to it because that just makes it harder for a jury to forget it. Yeah, the criminal classification was the other thing. That seemed, and they said, I guess they're not worrying about that until closing arguments now. But the big one seemed to be referring to the people who had already pled out.
Members of the jury, welcome back. Good afternoon. I'm very glad to see you all. I'm very glad you all decided to come back. It's important. Thanks for being right where we asked you to be, right on time. It really will help as these days add up to keeping us on track. A thing that it makes sense to tell you now, just for what we have a quick moment, is as you'll see, we're a little behind our anticipated 1:30 start time. There are going to be times during this trial when you are in the jury room ready to go, but you're not out here working. You're back there waiting. What I want to make sure you know is that everybody in the courtroom would rather have you out here working. we're all much happier when you're here with us. There are some times when the parties and I need to do some work outside of your presence. The goal always is to respect and honor your time, to do that work as fast and efficiently as we can, and to have you back in the courtroom working with us. If there are times when we can push that work outside of your presence to a different time, early in the morning or during a break, we're going to do that. It won't always work. Sometimes we'll be sitting and waiting. Please know I'd rather have you out here. So thank you for your patience. We completed opening statements this morning. Now we're into the evidentiary phase of the trial. As I told you before our lunch break, the state gets to call its witnesses first. And with that, Mr. Hughey or Mr. Kalbaugh, Mr. Hughey, the state may call its first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Sergeant Jerry Ciode at this time.
Okay, and you can go ahead and remove your mask at this point. Thank you. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, then you may be seated. And then because we're being recorded, I'll ask you to please state and spell your first and last name.
It's Jerry Ciode, Jerryciota.
Thank you, sir.
And if you could pull that microphone just a little bit closer to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hughey.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Sergeant Ciode. Could you start by telling the members of the jury how you're employed?
Employed as a patrol sergeant with the Portland Police Bureau.
How long have you been with Portland Police Bureau?
25 years, I think,
How long have you been a sergeant with the Portland Police Bureau?
or 6.5 years.
I'm going to just jump right in and direct your attention back to May 1st of 2019, a little over 3 years ago. Were you working as a Portland Police Sergeant on that day?
I was.
Do you recall approximately what shift you were working or what hours you would have been working that day?
I was assigned to a street crimes unit. I was working, my schedule back then was from noon to 10 p.m.
Okay.
I don't know what my exact hours were that day.
Okay. Were there a number, and I'm not asking you the nature of any demonstrations, but were there a number of demonstrations going on in Portland on May 1st of 2019?
There was.
Were you assigned to be, we can see obviously that you're wearing your police uniform here today. Were you assigned to be in uniform on that day or something different?
No, I was in plain clothes that day.
Do you recall like what kind of clothing you were in or what that looked like?
I have no idea.
When we say plain clothes, we're talking about just regular.
Just regular street clothes. I was probably wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Maybe honestly, whatever I would wear out of my closet at home.
Understood. And while you were working in plain clothes, what were you doing with respect to the demonstrations?
I was just monitoring for intel.
Okay. That afternoon on May 1st of 2019, did it appear that some of the demonstrations that you'd been monitoring were largely concluding or were over for the day?
Yes.
And did you actually stop monitoring demonstrations?
Yeah, I actually went back to my office at Central Precinct.
For those not familiar, where is Central Precinct that you have your office?
It's on 2nd Avenue between Madison and Main.
Okay. And that's right here in downtown Portland.
Correct, Southwest.
Understood. And did you stay in street clothes at that time?
Yes.
When you were at your office at the Central Precinct for Portland Police here in downtown Portland, did you learn some information over the radio or something like that of an incident going on in the area of 8th and Cooch in Northeast Portland?
Yes.
Did you respond to that incident?
Yes, I did.
And when I use the term respond, what does that mean that you actually physically did?
Went to the location.
Just drove over there or walked?
I drove.
You mentioned that you were in street clothes. Were you driving a police car when you drove over there?
No, I was not. I was in an unmarked, normal car. No police lights, no emergency sirens, no markings of any kind.
Okay, understood. And I want to ask you, we're gonna come back to what you did and where you went in just a moment, but at that time, were you familiar with the Cider Riot bar, or at least where that was?
I was familiar with the location, yes.
Where is that located?
It's on the northeast corner of 8th and Gooch. Northeast.
Had you seen information publicized on social media that might be a gathering spot after demonstrations?
Yes.
And tell us when
Let me correct myself. I personally didn't see it. The people from the police bureau who monitor those things shared that information with me.
Okay, understood. When you drove over to the area of Cider Riot on 8th and Cooch, and let me just ask you, this might sound like a silly question, but is that location that we're talking about, Northeast 8th Avenue and Northeast Cooch, is that here in Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
Where specifically did you go? Did you go right up to the bar or park somewhere else?
Initially, I drove around for two reasons. One, to get a visual of what was really going on and the scope of it from as many different angles as I could. Number two was to find a place where I could safely monitor that intersection. Where I ended up was on 8th Avenue, south of Cooch, between the right side and the east side of the street.
Sorry, say that again.
On 8th Avenue, facing northbound, south of Cooch, north of Burnside on the east side of the street.
Okay, understood. So as you looked towards the Cider Riot location, when you were looking up 8th Avenue to the north?
Correct.
Could you see a lot of people there?
There were a lot of people there.
And let me just ask you this question right off the bat. Anyone you could identify or recognize, or just a large group of people that you
A
saw?
large group of people. I couldn't identify a single person.
Generally, what were you seeing happening, and where was it happening?
When I first got there, there was a large group of people on the east side of the street, a large group of people on the west side of the street, yelling back and forth at each other.
Sorry, you said what, back and forth?
Yelling back and forth at each other.
Okay. Did that change at any point, or did it pretty much stay that way while you were watching?
No, during the course of the time I was there, it turned into a fight between both sides of the street, between the people on both sides of the street.
Okay. What when you were viewing this, it sounds like you're a little ways down the block to the south.
About half a block.
About a half a block. What did you decide to do? And I guess my question is, did you hop out of your car and try to intervene, or do something different?
No. My job there was to the best of my ability, determine what, if any, response from the Portland Police Bureau we could do safely for us, safely for the people involved, safely for the community. Strictly observe and report over the radio, and give the best advice I could to those who would make the decision.
Whether it's based on the earlier demonstrations in the day or anything else, did Portland Police have a lot of resources available at that time?
Due to the day we had earlier in the day, a lot of resources, those resources had left. They had all gone home. Our resources were below our street minimums of what we have. So our resources throughout the entire city, let alone Central Precinct, were very minimal, to say the least.
Okay. And I've used the term resources, and you've used it right back at me. Resources. I think we're speaking about the same thing. What do you mean when you use the term resources and resources being low?
In this particular incident or circumstances, I just mean people, just officers in uniform.
Police officers.
Police officers in uniform.
Okay. And you used the phrase below street minimum. What do you mean by that?
So each precinct and each shift has a number of officers that are required to work the street in patrol and uniform for that shift. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the exact numbers are. My computer tells me what those are, and my computer tells me if they're under minimums. But say, for example, C shift, or which is an afternoon shift at Central Precinct, is required to have a minimum of 22 bodies. That means that is the minimum number of bodies that our Strategic Services Division says is required to work the street that shift. And what I'm saying by our resources were low is we actually, because of the day, went below that standard of 12, a made-believe number of 22.
Okay. Roughly, and I'm talking about both sides, all people that were out there that you saw out in front of Cider Riot near the intersection of 8th and Cooch. How many people would you estimate that you saw outside?
Based on my recollection, I think there were like maybe 80
Okay.
altogether.
In your view, or perhaps based on policy, were there enough police officers to come swoop in and intervene or break this up or something?
So,
Objective to opinion and speculation.
To the extent that's a foundational objection, the objection sustained, you can attempt to lay a foundation, Mr. Hughey.
Sure. Are you aware of whether there are best practices or even policies within Portland Police about how many resources, meaning police officers, would be necessary to respond to a large group where there's as many as 80 people?
we determine what number of officers we need to affect positive change, have a positive outcome with no injuries to police officers, no injuries to those involved, no injuries to citizens. That is, or can be, very subjective at times, and it was there, that was my job. My job was to determine how many officers we would need to affect a positive change.
Okay. And what was the evaluation that you made as you watched that from the unmarked car?
With the numbers that we had, our resources had, we were doing everything we could to gather as many resources as we could. We didn't have enough resources to go and make a positive change. We had resources available for life safety, and that was it. And so my job very quickly became observe for life safety issues.
When you use that phrase, life safety or life safety issues, could you help us? What does that mean to you? What are you
Somebody is
describing?
dying or being very seriously injured and about to die.
Okay. So when you say monitoring for life safety issues, essentially were you trying to keep an eye on this situation from in your plainclothes from your unmarked car?
Yes, I didn't get out of my car. I was literally just observing.
And to see if something really bad, like somebody dying or getting super seriously injured, was going to happen. Okay. Did you watch until the incident kind of dissipated or concluded on its own?
Yes, I did.
Later, did you end up seeing some video footage of the very incident at Cider Riot that you had watched either on social media or YouTube?
I'm not a big social media guy, and I'm trying to think. I think that I saw, I think Detective Trainer showed me some video. I mean, this was 3 years ago. It would have been shortly after, or within 6 months. No offense, 3 years, I couldn't even tell you how many calls I've been on in 3 years, and how many cases. I think maybe, but I don't know for sure.
Sure. And on that day, on May 1st of 2019, is it correct that you did not attempt to identify anybody or arrest anybody?
I did not.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Mr. Schmontzes, any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee, any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Doyle, any questions for this witness?
No questions.
May this witness be released?
Yes.
Yes, from the
Thank you,
state's
sir. You are
perspective.
excused from testifying. You are released from this case.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
State may call its next witness.
Thank you. The next witness the state will call is Heather Clark.
I'll ask you to actually please remain standing for me, please. And you can go ahead and remove your mask. And then I'll have you raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Okay, then you may be seated. And then I'll ask you to please state and spell your first and last name.
Okay, it's Heather Clark, Heatherclark.
Thank you. Mr. Hughey.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Clark. I think you're doing a good job, but just in case it gets a little softer, it is helpful if you stay nice and close to that microphone.
Sure.
But I could hear you just fine when
You can pull it down if it's easier, if you get it closer to you.
All right.
All right.
I think we're good. Okay.
I appreciate it. Could you start by just telling us how old you are?
34.
And again, I am going to just go ahead and jump right back to a couple years ago to May 1st of 2019. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
I'm not asking the nature of any specific demonstrations, but were you engaged in or participating in some demonstrations that day?
Yes.
And after the demonstrations, had you planned to go to the Cider Riot bar or pub after the demonstrations?
Yes.
Is that, how would you characterize it? Bar, pub?
Pub.
Okay. Was that something that had been sort of circulating on social media as like a place where people could go after participating in demonstrations?
Yes.
Fair to say that it was characterized as like an after party or meetup or something like that?
Yes.
And when we characterize it that way, like an after party or a meetup, was that any sort of demonstration or protest at Cider Riot, or just hanging out with people?
No, it was hanging out with people.
Okay. Were you there, I guess after the demonstrations that day, were you there relaxing and hanging out with people at Cider Riot?
Yes.
At some point that afternoon, did you see a group of other people that hadn't been there arrive?
Yes.
Tell us about that, just in your own words, like what you saw and where they were coming from.
I think I was sitting down and I just looked out and across the street saw a group of people approaching.
Okay. What did the people look like?
Lots of just shorts, t-shirts. I think somebody was wearing an American flag. Some people were wearing goggles. Some people had like light body armor on. Some people had cans of bear spray or mace. Helmets as well.
Okay. And again, I'm not asking you about if the answer is yes from where or anything like that, but was there anybody that you recognized when you saw them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who, if anybody, did you recognize as part of that group that you were describing with the helmets and goggles and the flags and stuff that you were just talking about?
Joey Gibson and Dummy Cooper.
Okay. They were a couple people that you recognized.
Yes.
Did you know their names at that time as well?
Yes.
Okay. Let's turn to Mr. Gibson. Can you tell us, I guess, where you first saw him and what you saw him do as he walked towards the bar?
He had his phone out. I believe he was live streaming. Approached the bar. Was just kind of the only one that kind of came out to talk. Was saying things like, do something or come get some. Just pointing the camera in people's faces. And yeah, just like, it seemed like he, that was it. That was it. He came out with his camera and was filming and saying things like, do something.
And is there, is there an outdoor like seating area, or I guess I might call it a beer garden or something like that at Cider Riot?
Yes.
Does that abut the sidewalk of 8th Avenue there?
What was the question?
I use the word, does that abut the sidewalk? Maybe just a more clear way of saying that. Does it come right out to the
Yes,
sidewalk?
it does.
Okay. And was there, fair to say there was kind of an exchange of words back and forth with Mr. Gibson and the other people that had come with him?
Yes.
At some point, did some mace get sprayed or things get thrown or anything like that?
Yes.
Do you have a recollection of kind of when that started?
Maybe less than 5 minutes in. That
Okay.
was the time frame.
Do you have a recollection of like what the first instance of either mace or something getting thrown was? And it's okay if you don't.
No.
Okay. How long would you estimate that interaction lasted, sort of from the sidewalk to the what I'm just going to call a beer garden or outdoor seating area?
I don't remember.
Fair enough. At some point, did some of this confrontation move down the street a little ways?
Yes.
Can you describe what you're talking about with that, and more importantly, what you saw?
People moved down the street. I believe that what I saw was a fight that happened, consensual on both sides. And that was it. That kind of moved down from Cider Riot down the street. It was in the street. And I would say that whole thing maybe lasted 10 minutes.
Okay. Was that still kind of in view of the Cider Riot beer garden?
Yes.
At some point, did that fight, that consensual fight that you just described, did that sort of die off or cool
Yes.
off? Did you think people were going to leave at that point?
Yes.
Did that happen?
No.
At the time, it looked like people might leave. Did you have an interaction with the person that you knew as Demi Cooper?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
I walked out. I kind of had stepped away as I thought people were leaving. I walked back out to stand next to another femme who was having an interaction with Demi Cooper for support. Words were exchanged there. I don't remember what was said. Yeah, and that was it. That was the exchange that I had.
Okay. And let me actually, I apologize. I want to back up a couple steps. Did you, at one point, did you personally approach Mr. Gibson and exchange some words with him?
Yes.
Did you ask him the question, why are you here?
Yes.
Do you recall whether you asked him to leave at any point?
Yes.
And did you?
Yes.
Do you have a recollection of what his response was to that?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Kalbaugh to play State's Exhibit 1, or a portion of that starting at 7 minutes and 51 seconds. It should be up on the screen right in front of you. We're going to watch just about a minute of that. With the court's permission to publish that, please.
Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you.
I believe you have it on the setting that has it as a second monitor.
No, on the display setting. Right, you got it. What, you want to plug this in? Yeah, plug it in.
Go. Anything else? Any more pepper? To expose you. 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 To expose this. They attacked us for being on the public sidewalk. Is that okay? It's a public sidewalk. Can I be here or not? Can I be here or not? To expose them. Why would they react that way? They can come to our bar. We won't attack them. Is that okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Are you okay with this behavior? Why? For what? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? So they can attack me for being on public side. What if people don't want Mexicans? Right there, right there.
That's good. That's good. Ms. Clark, I think we could probably recognize you, but was that you that was in the video just a few moments ago?
Yes.
Did you just want Mr. Gibson to leave at that point?
Yes.
Did they leave at that point?
No.
Let's go back to the interaction with the person you knew as Demi Cooper that you were just talking about a few moments ago. You said, let's see, I think you mentioned that he was having an interaction with another person at some point.
Yes.
And then how did you become involved in an interaction with the person you knew as Demi Cooper?
I think I looked over and there was a femme that was having an interaction with him, exchanging some words. There was no one else around her, so I walked up as support. And then there were words that were exchanged between the femme and I, and then with Demi Cooper. Demi Cooper was pulled away, and then he turned around and shoved me really quickly, and then proceeded to run away after that. And that was the interaction that I had.
Okay. And a couple times you just used the term femme, and please excuse my ignorance. Is that referring to somebody who either identifies or presents as female or feminine?
Yes, they could be non-binary. We just don't want to misgender anyone.
Okay. I appreciate it. I guess, did that prompt you then to sort of yell at or confront Demi Cooper some more?
Yes.
And where was that happening? Give us a sense of where that was taking place.
In the middle of the street, right next to Cider Riot. It may be Cooch. I don't remember, but it was in the central area, in the street.
At some point in the moments just subsequent to that, did you feel yourself get hit?
Yes.
Tell us when that happened, and more importantly, just from your own experience and perception, what you felt.
After I was shoved, I moved forward in the direction of Demi Cooper, and then felt something hit the back of my neck, and it immediately stunned me. And when I say stunned, it's like lost complete control of my body, felt like this electric shock go through my body. I became unconscious, maybe for a couple seconds, and I honestly thought I had died.
What do you sort of, or I guess when did you sort of regain consciousness or next have a memory after that experience?
I was being carried into Cider Riot. I was also maced at the same time.
Are you comfortable if we show a little video of that incident? Is that something
Yes.
you feel? Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Kalbaugh again to play a clip from State's Exhibit 2 with the court's permission to publish.
You may.
Starting at 24 minutes and 21 seconds. Yes, thank you. Ms. Clark, was that you that we saw in the middle of the frame just a couple moments ago, kind of falling to the pavement there?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that that was the end of your interaction, and like you said, you just got carried back inside?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I think those are all the questions I have to ask you right now.
Mr. Schmaltz, any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee, any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Doyle, any questions for this
No
witness?
questions for this
May this witness be released.
Yes, from the state's perspective.
Thank you. You are excused and you're released from this trial. You're free to go.
Sure. I get it.
Take your time. State may call its next witness.
State calls Justin Allen.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask that you remain standing. If you're comfortable removing your mask, I'll ask you to do so, as well as your hat and glasses. Thank you, sir. Do you need those glasses for seeing?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. The clerk will now swear you in.
Okay, I'll ask you to please raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Then you may be seated. And then because we're being recorded, I'll ask you to please state and spell your first and last name.
My name is Justin Allen, JUSTIN ALLEN.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hughey.
Actually, this will be mine, Judge. Thank
Mr. Kalbaugh.
So, Mr. Allen, do you remember May 1st, 2019?
Yes.
And was there an incident at a location called the Cider Riot?
Yes.
Were you there?
Yes.
How did you come to be there that day?
I had been filming various events in Portland over the previous year and a half.
Protests and the like?
Yes.
What is it you do for a living then? Are you some sort of videographer?
No, I live off of VA disability, and I rent my spare bedrooms out to people to cover extra expenses like my mortgage.
So is this a hobby?
I suppose you could call it that.
Okay. And VA, does that mean you're a veteran?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay. Through filming, folks, have you ever encountered Joseph Gibson or Mackenzie Lewis or Russell Schultz?
All three.
Are these people, you may not be friendly with them, but are they familiar to you?
Yes.
Do you recall whether you had any encounter with any or all of them on May 1st, 2019, casual or otherwise?
Yes.
Were they there?
Yes.
Why were you there that day?
I wanted to show my friends and family in Vancouver what these kinds of events were actually like.
And were you filming then that day?
Yes.
When you film, what do? Do you hold up, like, do you have a body camera? Do you have a big camera on your shoulder? What do you do?
I had my personal cell phone. All of the streams are just like through my social media, and I would just kind of, I had my phone and I would point it at whatever seemed the most relevant at the time.
And were you with either Mr. Gibson or Mr. Schultz or Mr. Lewis prior to whatever may have happened at, immediately prior to whatever may have happened at the Cider Riot?
Immediately prior, I was first with Mac Lewis before later on the other two joined us.
And I'm going to show you a video. There's no audio on this one, but I'm going to direct your attention to the screen over. Actually, it's in front of you as well. You can see it there. It's the same picture up
That is
above
easier.
there. You can see a copy there. Right, and Your Honor, permission to publish what's previously been admitted to evidence as Exhibit 4A.
You may proceed, Mr. Kalbaugh.
Okay. I'm going to play this video, sir, and I'm going to ask that you not say anything while I play it, and then I'll ask you a couple questions afterwards, okay? And if we need to dim the lights, I don't know if jurors needed that or not. Thank you. Sir, were you able to see that?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember that day, that filming that?
I do.
Just a couple questions. Approximately how much time, how early was this as far as the incident that occurred at Cider Riot that you had said you remembered? Was this several hours before? Was this short, just a couple minutes before? Do you even remember?
This would have been maybe 20 or 30 minutes. I could be a little off on that, but usually when I've seen this, it's the full.
Okay. So is it fair to say it was kind of pretty close in time?
Yes.
Okay.
Less than an hour.
Are you able to remember how far away this is?
Yes, it was maybe about a block and a half at most.
So pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah. I recall, yeah.
Okay. I'm now going to direct your attention to the screen as I show you kind of another half of your same video. Okay, so now we've got some more, we've got some more of your video. This is going to be what's previously been offered into evidence as and admitted as State's Exhibit 4B. Any objection to the state publishing 4B?
You may do so, Mr. Kalbaugh.
Okay. So again, just like last time, sir, I'm going to ask you to watch the screen in front of you and please remain silent until we're done. There we go. Sir, were you able to see that video clip?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it fair to say that that's the same group of people we had seen in State's Exhibit 4A?
It is.
Is it just a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes between the two?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Got one more for you. When you looked at those videos, you had said earlier that you were with Mac Lewis, Joseph Gibson, and Russell Schultz. So far in the two clips that we just saw, did you recognize either of those three individuals in those clips?
I'm going to object. I believe the question mischaracterizes the earlier testimony and assumes a fact, not an evidence.
Overruled. If you understood the question and if you remember it, you can answer. Otherwise, I can have Mr. Kalbaugh ask it again.
The question was, were any of the three men to my left present in that video?
Yes, the three defendants. There's a lot of men to your left, but yes, any of those three defendants.
Mac Lewis was at that time.
And what was he wearing in those videos?
He was wearing these like hardened rubber gloves, a helmet, various other accoutrements.
Okay, I'm going to do one more video for you and ask if you recognize it. Let me get it keyed up here. Okay. I'm going to direct your attention back. We may have some audio on this one.
Oh.
In a bit. Okay. Can you see the screen in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you what's previously been admitted into evidence at State's Exhibit 5 and permission to publish to the jury.
You may.
I'm gonna pause it briefly. Mr. Allen, were you able to see everything I was just playing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This video that I'm playing, did it pick up where say exhibits 4A and 4B left off? Pretty close in time?
A few minutes after.
Okay. So has your party grown at all? Are there additional people in the group that weren't there when it was exhibits 4A and 4B?
Yes.
Who's there now?
That is when Russell Schultz and Joey Gibson, plus a few others, joined us.
Okay. And where are you headed right now? Looks like you can even see it on your screen there.
Where the prior little meet and greet happened was.
Is that the Cider Riot?
Yes, that's Cider Riot in front of us.
Okay. I'm going to press play again. I believe that there's going to be audio in a moment. So again, I'll just ask you to please refrain from saying anything until I ask you a question.
Yes.
I'm going to pause it briefly. I believe we should have audio. And are the speakers turned on for the court?
They are. I just double checked that.
Your Honor, I'm going to pause it 1 second. I apologize. We seem to be having an audio issue.
Let me check in with the jurors while we wait. Everybody okay with the glare? Can you see okay? Sure. While we're paused, I'll note that the court moved into this courthouse in October of 2020. Before that time, we would all be, if we were doing this trial across the street at the old courthouse, would be huddled around a TV that had been wheeled in on a cart. And it would not necessarily be playing any more smoothly. So thank you for your patience.
Extra pen.
Yeah, the file should have it. You can switch over to mine if you need.
Yeah, if it doesn't work on this trial, let's try yours. You're right. Right about here?
I mean,
Yeah, do it on yours. All right, you got yours working here. Mr. Hughey appears to have his volume working. I'm not sure why mine's not doing it. Not working on your side?
All right. Folks, sorry for this. Let's take a quick 5 minutes while we get our act together in here. Sorry for the technical hassle. I'm going to invite you all to please leave your notebooks on your chairs. Please remember not to discuss this case with anyone and not to do any independent research into any things or laws or places or incidents having to do with this case. We'll excuse you to the jury room. We'll get you back out here with a working AV setup. Thanks for your patience. We'll go off the record.
Well, at least glad to know that they weren't going to deny us the chance to see this video. Same lawyers, as far as I know, Andy's got something Dylan from California as his lawyer, and then Gibson has Buchal. I haven't heard anything about Dylan working with Gibson or vice versa, but it could be worse. I've sat in on hearings where they came in and didn't even have the cable to hook up, because all it is they just they bring their own laptops and then just plug in a video cable that the court has. But they didn't even bring the right cables and didn't know how to switch the video to the TV. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a techie person, and I was just cringing watching, but what the heck? Wow. Just saw an article last night. Apparently Denver cops said they saw someone with a gun and shot into a crowd and wounded 5 people. Harmeet Dillon. Yeah, I was blanking the name. I've had interactions with her office once, and with this case, I'm, between, it seems like they don't have any text message or phone records subpoenaed to corroborate, planning actions, and then they don't have Andy Knows video, and I'm just, I feel like they left money on the table looking for evidence. No, this was apparently something that happened yesterday in Denver. Let's all have to see what he's tweeting out now. Let's see. That's right, I gotta fix the archives. Honey Badger. Yeah, that doesn't surprise that doesn't surprise me either. Retweeting about Saturday. Oh. Okay, so Andy's quoting Rose City Antifa. Honey Badger complaining about how none of the leftists. Oh yeah, I have alt. It's a pain about having to switch between accounts, but I also have a program that's archiving his tweets so that if he does the thing like he did to me where he says something inflammatory and then deletes the tweet, we still have some sort of archive of it. And talking about his investigation, his deep investigation into what happened with Cider Riot. I did the same deep investigation last night by reading the OLCC report. He's making a big deal about Joey Gibson being Japanese American.
We are on the record. The witness, all parties, and all counsel are present. We're outside the presence of the jury. I'll invite the clerk to please bring in the jury. It's up to you.
No idea what happened. Also, Brian.
And I thank everybody for not making any. How many lawyers does it take? Jokes.
Let's go ride bikes.
Did someone just make a joke about how many lawyers does it take to plug in a computer? I might have to try to remember to clip that later, because that's pretty beautiful.
Members of the jury, welcome back. Thanks for your patience. We think we've got it. So please think good thoughts for the technology. And we'll just pick up right where we left off, which was that Mr. Kalbaugh was going to continue playing this video.
Thank you, Judge.
Sorry. Oops, sorry about that.
Your intelligence is worse. I already did. You did? I did. Yeah. I'm so proud of you. I am. You're a fucking pussy. You stepped out of here. Yeah. I bet. Yeah. I pulled your mask off. And you keep talking. You must be a big fascist. I am. I'm tough. I'm fascist.
Pardon me, sorry. Pardon me, sorry.
You're fucking big cowboys. Fuck off. You're about to come here. Now you're also told you. What's wrong? You like trouble? Hey,
Pardon me, sorry.
Hold on.
I know. ACAB.
Why not?
Could I have a mask for when this happens?
Get on the
ACAB. ACAB. I'm undercover.
Watch your back.
Hey, watch the cars.
Watch it. This is Cider Riot right here. Look at
I got. Hell yeah! Pardon me. Can I get that? Spanking game. I could use that mail ox a little bit, maybe.
I don't have my bag.
Oh yeah. I got a little bit of pepper in my eyes.
I have my bag. My mail.
Fucking hell. This is shit. This is. Hold up. Take this. I will get it back for you. This is a student. He is just doing a school thing. He is not involved with this. It's a rental from his college.
Well,
I'm glad I didn't hit him.
Yes, there's a number of people here that just kind of walked in. You guys. Fucking hell.
Get back, let's go.
Well, I got your bag, but I think they stripped it. Your bag is empty, but I got the bag back.
No, all the stuff is in here. Here's my fucking law. God damn it. You took my fucking back. Why? I said, give me my fucking back. You're like,
Can you get me a little bit on this stuff, if possible? I got some pepper spray. Not much. It was just kind of like a...
Take your head off. Take your head off. Lay back. Just lay down. Just lay down. Just lay down. Give me a water. Give me a water back.
Okay, I'm back. There was a mild problem with the pepper spray, but... Okay. So that was fun. I got... Hey, pepper spray! Woohoo! Okay, I am, oh my God. I'm good, just, I didn't get sprayed directly, it was just kind of like a cross-pollination. Oh gosh, okay, I want to like be on this van to film, I feel like the best place for this. And I'm back over here now. Oh God. You know whose van this is? I want to like just sit on top of it. So badly.
Probably just anything personal.
Most likely.
You're the real fascist! You're the What are you saying? Yes, go ahead.
You think we need protection? You think we're less than you? That's why you're wasting our as a Jewish person, I don't need your protection. You
Car! Oh, God. Shit's getting real.
order of protection?
Guys. Just go. Yeah, I got male oxygen sprayed again from the crosswind, so. Yeah, no, the veterans knew what was up, you know, when to do the fucking shit.
But the thing about it is,
Yeah, no.
that's all of it shit, man. It's all fucking publicity, and everyone here knows it. Well, that's not. I feel.
Well, not everyone here knows it.
Well, this just makes me to be more proud of this because they talk about this bullshit. Like, they're not about this bullshit.
Yeah. Look at my. Fucking hell.
I don't know if you're not thinking about nobody can hear what you're saying anyway. They all think you're Nazi. That's I can't shut up, bitch! Stop making your fucking ass! Shut the fuck up, bitch! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Look at that! You run your fucking mouth! Shut the fuck up, you dumb bitch! Shut your fucking mouth! You got me, bitch! You got me! You got me! Come on, bitch! Oh, come on, wipe it out! Wipe it out! Wipe it out!
Oh, God damn it! God damn it!
Keep backing up! Die!
Hong Kong. Look at that. Hell yeah, Sacramento. Oi! 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 Hold up! Calm the fuck down!
You won't calm down. We'll beat you tomorrow.
13-12. Thanks.
Get the fuck out of here. That's not a law. Hey, get out of here.
Fuck. Well, I mean, he is right. I'm not making side.
I'm not going to interfere. I'm making sure dude with the fucking punching button or something. That's all I do. Hey! Come on! No one jumps in! No one jumps in! Nobody! Let them handle it! You guys look pretty fucking ugly, Proud Boys! Get those ass, Seaman! Get it down!
Now this is happening.
It's a street fight. Anything counts. They're on the way out doing a street fight. Let's go. Let's go. Keep your hands up. Run it. Watch the knees. That's the way it's supposed to be. Watch the knees. Look at me. Defense is crazy. Oh, he's out.
He's been playing it. He played a song. He played a song. Played a song. What song? Hey, I got you. Hey!
Let them see that. He didn't know.
Yeah, let me get this handshake. Okay, just like.
Don't hit me. I said you're not gonna hit me, and you told me to eat it.
Well, I mean,
That's what happens when you do shit like this. Are you okay? I'm not mad at you, bro. You're gonna need a napkin for that. I am. Who's got a napkin? Who's got a napkin or a wet nap?
Where is the medic person?
Hey! He needs medical assistance.
The guy with the guitar guy is with his bleeding. You get a medical care? I guess it's time to leave, right? This is so fucking weird. This is so fucking weird. That's all right, ladies. This is a thing. This is a thing that happens. And
you're all puppy, you're a little puppy.
And it will never not be a thing that happens.
It's over there, man. Yes.
Yeah. I can hold it for the time being. Calm down.
Yeah, let's go! Woo! Let's go!
There was a deal. There was mutual combat all around. We are leaving. Shit! Let's go. Oh yeah, let's change to this ass beat. I'm going home. Cheers, dude. Why are you guys doing this, man? Can I get a picture? Just like with you. Yeah. Each a badass one for you. I took this for peace. It's just you took this for peace. This is for peace. This is for peace. Yeah. You got a napkin? I don't. Come with me. Come with me. Come here. He has some napkins. He got punched in the face. The guy with the guitar did. It was. So, I'm leaving. Just some advice. Don't say don't do something that's so loud people won't hear the word don't. All they hear is fight me. You don't gotta give me that advice. Fair enough. Sorry. Have a good night. Huh?
Hey, guys.
My name's Joe.
Do you know him?
No. He's Andy. He's a local journalist that I follow. He's a local
Like
freelance.
you follow, are you gonna take care of him?
Like
or
I follow
are you
him
gonna
on
ditch him
Twitter.
as
He's a
soon as I
Twitter
see him?
journalist. He's a Twitter journalist.
If he needs me, he's sprayed. He's incapacitated.
Okay. Well, this has been interesting. Back to the main event.
You won't fight a black guy! You are afraid to fight a black guy! Keep that noted! You won't fight a black guy!
I mean, I thought we were going to only have one person fighting.
If you believe that, then do something about it! If you believe that, go!
Nice! I mean, they want him.
Fight for one another. They faced each other. And you're going to decide entirely over that? Why are you going to push a girl? A girl that's not even masked. A girl that we've never even seen before. I've seen her. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why are you going to...
No, we don't need 911. We do not need
hit me in my fucking foot with a rock. I think I'm going to put a knife on.
I mean... Well, we've managed to get the fuck out of here finally. So we have now left Cider Riot, and we can go not get pepper sprayed. man. So, yeah, I mean, it's...
That motherfucker told me hit him. I didn't mean it.
No, he forgives you. He forgives you.
He shook your hand afterwards.
Yeah, he was trying to say, don't hit me, don't hit me. No, he was playing music with somebody.
I thought he was gonna hit someone.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna do some Hong Kong Phooey shit too, but yeah, they really wanted your ass after you did the pepper spray shit, man. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I had to.
Fucking hell. So do we have everybody?
Well, there's a road all the way down the end.
What happened to that blue and orange guy whose camera got fucked with?
No, he's back there.
Okay.
Yeah, he's coming towards us.
Do you know?
He's got a jacket on.
Oh, I see it
Yeah,
now.
it wasn't orange and blue though. He was, yeah.
Well, orange shirt, blue shorts, yeah.
Yeah, you.
Oh, gosh.
Whether you have anything to do with it or not, they will attack you.
Did you get your camera back at all?
Well, this is what's left of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just tell the truth. Tell the truth of what you're not here us. We would never do that to anybody's property.
Trust me, I get it, bro. No, I definitely. If you want to do more stuff like this, talk to Mike Bivens about best practices.
I think the body.
You got sprayed too?
Yeah. Well, you got one more than me, so put it there. Slur.
SD card in there. That was the first time I thought I was going to really fight that.
Yeah. Okay. Centralize. Roll out. Wait, where are you going, Andy? Oh, okay. So it appears that things are dying down now. We have gotten out with our heads intact, and
No comments.
yeah.
I got
What the fuck is James thinking? God damn it. So there.
It's definitely fucking prison. Did you not see what happened?
Yeah, he just
Right
kind
in the fucking head.
Yeah.
I couldn't even see fucking after shit. I don't know.
Well, I don't want that shit back in the room today.
At one point, I was holding my fucking eyelids open because I couldn't keep them open.
Dude, I got sprayed a whole bunch of times, so I could barely see anything. Joey's really fucking pissed. One thing I went against that girl, and then the other guy, because he walked through it, she's fucking obnoxious as shit.
I feel bad for that kid. He came to the whole project. He got fast.
Yeah.
Which one?
Blue and orange. Yeah, no, I should have told him to stand back. So the thing was, he got really close, and then someone just like went and did like the whole uppercut thing on it. Like he shouldn't have been that close. Like,
Damn,
dude needs to learn from Mike Bivens how to do this shit.
Get an iPhone.
Yeah.
Professional DSLRs don't work.
No, for sure. That it is. That it is. Okay.
I think we know who that's for. Yeah. Now they come out.
Well, I mean.
Or taking him to the hospital. They be coming down quick. One side. Yeah.
It's hard to say, but definitely like.
Yeah. Okay. Where you want? I'm working down there.
How so?
I mean, it's like a mixed thing, like usual. It's really hard to tell who starts anything in this shit. It just gets chaotic. We can cross the street here.
Bye guys, stay safe.
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch the footage, Eric. Okay, folks, I am getting back to my car now. I'm gonna go off the live stream. The camera guy just got too close, and he did not. He's just a fucking like student at OCC or Oregon State, and like he didn't. Leaving. We're leaving. John. the FAS are in complete retreat. We just crossed MLK, walking towards Burnside. I guess, are you following me, Antonio? Or I guess, wait, you're here, right? So yeah, we're about to hit the Burnside Bridge, and we're walking back towards Chapman, where in the mall area, a bunch of the people's cars are parked. So, fucking hell. So I'm gonna end the live stream now, and I will. I don't know, John. I got pepper sprayed twice, so I don't think so. I got other footage of them doing shit. I'm gonna come back to Cider Riot after I get my car. And yeah. So it was a pleasure, gentlemen. Well, I mean, maybe, but I have to. Dimitri, yeah. I'm gonna log off so you guys can watch the full video stuff. Please do that good work of skipping around and seeing if you can find times when I caught something that's usable, or whatever. I'll have hard copies of this to pass out soon. Cheers. Good night and good luck.
Thank you. So I take it you were able to see all that. Is that correct, sir?
I was, sir.
At the end of your video, who were you speaking to?
My friends and family on the social media platform that I was doing the live stream through.
John, is that who you said?
Yes.
Okay. And did you say you were going to go back to Cider Riot? Is that what you just said at the end?
Yes.
What was the purpose of that?
I had never seen a person be drug away like that before, and I wanted to make sure she was okay.
I have no further questions, John.
Thank you, Mr. Kalbaugh. Mr. Schmontes, any questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Allen, at one point in the video, you were approached by two patrons at Cider Riot, and you kind of uttered to them, ACAB. You remember that?
I do.
Tell the jury what that means.
It is an acronym that is short for All Cops Are Bastards.
And you're letting these people, there's at least two, correct me if I'm wrong, letting them know that you're essentially on their side. Is that right?
I think my intention was to say that I was not their enemy.
Because they're coming at you to physically harm you?
No.
You didn't think so?
They had a camera and they were pointing it at me.
And yet you felt the need to say ACAB and identify yourself, but your testimony is you didn't feel threatened.
I don't understand.
You felt the need to say ACAB because you were feeling physically threatened by the people at Cider Riot.
I wouldn't say I felt physically threatened by them. She had a camera.
Well, then why identify yourself? What's the point?
Let's let the witness finish answers before we ask new questions, Mr. Schmontes.
I think at the time,
All right, we can move on. Because he said it again as you're running over to a disturbance involving the Cider Riot bouncer. A gentleman in black's walking up to you, and again, you exclaim to him 1312, which I believe also stands for All Cops Are Bastards.
it's the alphanumeric version of the acronym.
And again, why did you feel the need to tell the gentleman who's walking up to you that?
In both instances, they had their cameras or were otherwise focusing on me, and I knew they had nothing to worry about myself, so I was just telling them that I wasn't their enemy.
And after you told them either ACAB or 1312, they both backed off of you, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that's correct, yeah.
How many people had bear spray inside the Cider Riot?
I have no idea.
One person? 10, 20?
I have no way of knowing that.
Because you weren't watching them, correct? Let me say your attention was mostly focused on Mr. Gibson or anybody else who was associated with the group that you walked up with. You weren't really filming the people inside the bar.
I think my footage shows both sides at various points. At the time, I wasn't keeping track of things. The majority of what I was doing was just kind of running around.
Right. And you were pepper sprayed at one point.
Indirectly. There was just so much pepper spray in the air that enough got in my eyes that it became an irritation.
And did you also notice that there were multiple glasses of cider that had been thrown from Cider Riot onto the street?
I can recall, there was at least once that I can recall of like a kind of motion where someone like kind of dumped a glass.
And the people you were talking to, I think you said your friends and family, it was your mission, and this was kind of your objective here, was to gather evidence against Mr. Gibson and his friends, wasn't it?
The reason that I kept going out was to just kind of, I wanted to show my friends and family, people in Vancouver where I live at, you know, what these things were actually like. That was my intention.
And so you were filming Mr. Gibson, and you were, I mean, essentially working with the folks at Cider Riot.
No, I was not working with anyone at all.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Lee, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. The phrase you actually used in its complete form was, "I'm ACAB undercover." Isn't that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Doesn't the term undercover mean that you're pretending to be with one group when you're actually a part of another group?
I think a person can be undercover without being a member of a secondary group.
Why did you believe telling the people at Cider Riot that all cops are bastards would make them view you as not a threat?
I mean, it's one of their slogans.
So the slogan for the people that were at the cider bar wearing the masks is, "All cops are bastards."
It's frequently been said at previous events that I'd been filming at. They say it all the time.
Now, we had a discussion about Exhibit 4 that showed some videos you took. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Mr. Gibson was nowhere in video 4, correct?
Video 4 was the one where Mac put the gloves on, right? Gibson and Schultz didn't show up until video 5 or 6 or whatever the number is.
To be clear, video 4, no part of video 4 shows Mr. Gibson or Mr. Schultz, correct?
That's correct.
And prior to you going to Cider Riot, you were at various locations earlier in the day.
That's correct.
Right. And you were at a location on a bridge for approximately an hour prior to going to Cider Riot, correct?
We didn't watch the video. That sounds about right.
Okay. Mr. Gibson and Mr. Schultz were not with you for any of the protesting there, correct?
We didn't review any footage, but I believe so.
Okay, so you believe I'm correct that neither Mr. Gibson nor Mr. Schultz were with you during that period?
I haven't reviewed that footage recently, but I believe that what you're saying is accurate, I think.
And then when you first saw Mr. Gibson on the way to Cider Riot was actually just as he was almost there, correct? About a block and a half away, I think you said.
Yeah, he met us on that street corner, and then a couple of minutes later, we walked over.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Doyle, any questions?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Allen. Do you recognize that I represent Mr. Lewis?
I do.
And you often refer to him as Mac, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you said that he had accoutrements, did that include the camera, or do you recall?
I don't really recall. He had the getup on. We could refer to the stills if you want to point at something specific, I guess.
But so you just don't recall that one of the accoutrements was the camera that he was wearing, or do you?
It's been 3 years.
So it's one way or the other, and you don't recall, is that correct? And towards the end of the video, you were talking about people getting sprayed, and you got a little spray, is that correct?
Yeah, some cross stream.
Do you recall how often Mr. Lewis was sprayed?
I don't recall offhand.
You don't recall. No further questions.
Mr. Kalbaugh, any additional questions?
Just very brief, Your Honor. Mr. Allen, when Mr. Schmonzi is the first attorney over here to ask you questions from the defense.
Mr. Schmaldi?
Mr. Schmonzi's asked you some questions about what was going on inside the bar. One of the first attorneys to question you over here. Remember that just now? You don't have to know his name.
Plutai?
Do you remember the questions?
Yeah, he asked me about things inside the bar.
We just watched your footage here for these two. It didn't appear from the footage that you were inside the bar filming. Were you answering him because you went inside the bar later, or were you talking about the kind of beer garden or whatever you might want to call the outside area that looks to be part of the bar?
I mean, I had never been inside Cider Riot at that point, so the only things that I could have possibly commented on were things that were in that patio or beer garden or whatever you want to call it.
I'm asking you about your answer to him just now. When he asked you how many, I think his question was how many people inside the bar had pepper spray or mace or bear spray? And your question, I believe you said you didn't know?
Yeah, I couldn't
I'm
know.
trying to find out whether that's because you went inside and you just don't remember, or whether it's because you were outside filming. I don't know your answer.
I was outside filming, so for the people that were inside the bar, I'd have no way of knowing. I was kind of confused by the question when he was asking it.
Well, that's why I figured I'd re-ask it. Are you able to answer how many people outside the bar had pepper spray, or would you simply refer the jurors to your video?
I would refer to the jurors to my video. I wouldn't know of any.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. May this witness be released?
The state has no more. Yes.
Wait, I have one follow-up, Your Honor.
We're going to go off the record first. Is there any objection?
No.
Okay. We can stay on the record. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you go inside Cider Riot bar later that day?
Yes.
Any follow-up from any party?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Allen, thank you. You are excused and you are fully released from this case. You're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, that brings us to your well-earned mid-afternoon break. We'll take 10 minutes. I'll ask you to be in the jury room ready to go at 3:38, 37. 3:37. You can leave your notebooks on your chairs. Please remember my instructions not to do any research or talk to anyone about this case. Have a good 10 minutes. We'll see you right back here then.
Okay, so yeah, we've got a bit of a break. I'll go ahead and put some nice chill music on while we refresh popcorn and bathroom and sodas, and see you in a few.
present. I don't believe anybody wishes to be heard. Madam Clerk, would you please bring in the jury?
Yes, I will go ahead and bring the jurors back in now.
Members of the jury, welcome back. I hope you had a good break. We are still in the state's case. That means it's still the state's turn to call witnesses. And Mr. Kalbaugh, the state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Frederick Souede.
And if you could remain standing just for a moment, you may remove your mask if you're comfortable doing so, and the clerk will swear you in.
All right. I'll ask you to please raise your right hand. Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Then you may be seated. And then because we're being recorded, I'll ask you to please state and spell your first and last name.
First name Frederick, Fredrick. Last name Saupe, Saupe.
Thank you. Mr. Kalbaugh.
Thank you. Mr. Souede, do you recall filming an incident that occurred at a location called Cider Riot on or about May 1st of 2019?
I do.
And if you could just briefly explain to the jury, how did you come to be filming that incident or anyone involved in that incident?
I had just moved back from Philadelphia. While I was in Philly, heard about the, I guess you could say, change in the air in the Pacific Northwest. First May Day back, thought, hey, actually see it with my own eyes. Drove down from the Seattle area early that morning, spent the day wandering Portland, wherever, things were happening on Twitter. Saw a lot of hippies, and then, just posted stuff on Twitter as I was going about. Near the end of the day, things seemed to have culminated around a flag rally of some kind on an overpass. Hung out there, a lot of interesting folks. When that rally had ended, people started to disperse, and I just noticed that there were a group of people that seemed to be a little bit more together, and kind of followed them along. They stopped by some tennis center to, get water, change stuff. Thought, okay, there might be some things going on, and then made sure that my phone was fully charged, and started, recording when I could.
And did any of these people in this group have any sort of weapons or armor or anything that led you to believe that you should probably follow them and see if something interesting was going to happen?
Yeah, a few folks that were involved with this were wearing what I would call protective vests, not the kind of thing that you'd see out and about in the streets. Some folks had not combat helmets, but like more professional than skateboard helmets, I guess would be a way of putting it. Some folks had, looked like a collapsible baton at the time. Somebody had like a mag flashlight on them. So it was like, okay, people were here expecting to do things.
So let me now ask you, when you said you wanted to make sure your cell phone was full, are you a videographer? Is this a hobby?
No, as my wife would describe me, I am a chunky busybody. So I like to just see things as they happen. I've been involved with previous Mayday things in Seattle back in the early 2010s where I just showed up and watched people be weird.
Okay. So did you take some footage, and we got the beginning of the footage in front of you, which has been previously admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 3. Okay, so what I'm going to do is ask Your Honor's permission to publish State's Exhibit 3 to the jury.
You may.
And sir, I'm going to ask you to not comment on it, to let me play the video, and then I might have some questions for you at the end, okay?
Is that a yes?
Thank you, Judge. And I heard you. I started playing it. It was finally the volume worked, but now it was really loud. Everybody good to go? Was that a yes?
I just want to make sure we had an out loud yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everything's recorded, so if you don't answer out loud, the microphones won't pick it up.
Okay.
Oh, look, this guy has a baton. This is good footage. Put on YouTube, bro.
What do we have going on in Saturday?
What's that?
What do we have going on?
March against domestic terrorism, such as this. This is fucking domestic terrorism, right here. See that guy?
He might fuck!
I'm dead. I'm ready to give you a knock.
You're deracinated like March Day! You want some fucking kids? Go fuck your mother! Fuck you! Now what? Now what? How about you? Now what? How about you? You guys want to throw rocks?
Motherfucker.
Fuck you, Ian Kramer! Hey, Joey, how many
How fucking high do you have to be to dance?
They knew my name. That's why I told them my name. What's my name? I said. That sounds like a problem. That's a not you do. No, you're fucking. You guys are not. You won't even like this. You guys are fascists. You can walk anywhere you want. Second minute. If you believe that, just do something about it, bitch! Shut up, bitch! And they're making you fucking lie! Shut the fuck up, bitch! Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Look at that! Fuck like that! Open your fucking mouth! Shut the fuck up, you dumb bitch! Shut your fucking mouth! When we want you, Do you want us to leave or not? Go. Go Niners! All right. Let's go, Harvey. Let's go. Calm the fuck down. Hey, stop! If they want to fight, we won't get involved. Why are you supporting a rapist? You're all under the law. I'm just telling you. It's not a law. Stay back! Hey! Hey, fuck off! No one jump in! No one jump in! Shut up! Nobody! Hey, get the fuck out of here! You guys look pretty fucking ugly, Proud Boys! Fucking go home! Get your mouth, Steve-O! Hey, go home! Get it down! Get it down! Get it down! Hey, not that shit! Doctors, go home! What are we doing? Joe, one of them chops out. Come on, Joe! Come on, stand right. We need people. House. Just remember, we came to your house and fucked shit up. Remember that. Back the fuck up, bitch! Come on! Yeah, we get you! Remember! No, we're going home now. Congratulations, guys. Ready to go? Okay, hey. This is the new America. Actually, I don't know. I think it's been as long as America's been going on. It's just the seats that's coming back, really.
Oh my God.
Who fucking hit him? Hit somebody. I didn't have the time. Somebody's coming out. Yeah, girls touching. Fucking girls touching. I said, pull her down. What does she have in her hand? Why no? Just calm down. Don't fuck no fucking lies. Dude, coming at us. What are we gonna do? Somebody shoots at you, shoot back. Why? I don't know. She was talking to him. She was talking to him. And he knocked him the fuck out. Fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. Take fucking hit to the head. Why got the guy that he mans up against? He manned up against someone, you tackle. I tackle him. That's what it means. Fuck I can't. He manned up against someone. You kick the guy that manned up against him. You're manned up and ran up and kicked him. And I ran up and said, hey,
Were you able to get all everything that was being shown on the screen?
Yeah.
And when you were recording that was your video, correct?
Yeah, very poor quality, but it was my video.
When you recorded, did you use a cell phone or some other sort of handheld camera?
I was using whatever latest model of iPhone was at the time, so the quality that was originally captured was quite a bit better than this.
My apologies. When you were done, did you post it to the internet or?
I think they were trying to post the entire video on Twitter. I think I was trying to stream it on Periscope at that time. This was just out like, hey, something's going on. I want to share this to my 6 followers. But it was really after the fact, on my way home, I had stopped to just see like what happened because I saw Cider Riot trending on Twitter, and I saw a lot of videos from a particular event come out. So I think I tried to put chunks of my video on there. I remember giving it to a media outlet at the time.
Thank you. I have no further questions, witness.
Mr. Schultz, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. What do I pronounce your last name?
Salty.
Salty, thank you. Mr. Salty, you were, prior to going to Cider Riot, you were at a flag rally, is that right?
Yes.
You were there for about an hour?
About sometime in the evening.
Mr. Schultz was not at that flag rally, was he?
I do not recall.
Mr. Gibson was not at that flag rally, was he?
The collection of people wearing roughly the same kind of kitted gear.
If you recall, was Mr.
Mr. Lee, we're not going to interrupt witnesses.
Thank you.
I could not tell you if he was or was not there.
Was Ian Kramer at the flag rally?
Yes.
Now, is Ian Kramer the man who, in the end of the video we just watched, was wearing a helmet and had an expandable baton?
Yes.
And at the end of that video, well, the video that we just watched, you're saying is a lower quality video than what you had originally made. Is that right?
Not to the extent that it would damage what I remember what was displayed.
Is it a lower quality video?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, at the end of that video, Mr. Gibson is verbally berating Ian Kramer. Is that correct?
I think so.
And what Mr. Gibson was yelling at Ian Kramer about was he was yelling at Ian Kramer for hitting the lady with the baton, correct?
No. I don't remember that being the case. I remember the argument being along the lines of manning up.
Okay. So prior to going to Cider Riot, to Mr. Gibson's credit, he actually told Ian Kramer that he was not welcome, correct?
I don't believe that would be the case.
Do you have a Twitter account?
Given the fact that you probably wasted a blue cartridge on what's printed there, yes.
Is your Twitter account @iFred?
Why, yes, it is.
Okay. And on May 5th of 2019, did you tweet, quote, to Joey's credit, he did tell Ian from Proud Boys he wasn't welcome.
Given that I probably tweeted that after the fact, I made more or less the statement after the fight.
Did I quote you correctly?
From the tweet?
Yes.
You're reading it, so yes.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Doyle, questions with this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Any redirect, Mr. Kalbaugh?
Yeah, briefly, Judge. The question that the prosecutor or the defense attorney just asked you about the Twitter, that the tweet, that's what we call it when someone posts on Twitter, is it a tweet?
Correct.
Your answer to his question that's what you wrote, so that's probably what you understood. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is that because you talked to Joey Gibson on a regular basis, or does that mean you would have heard this from someone else?
I would have overheard this, and those tweets would have been written at the event, because I was not writing those tweets during the event.
Okay. No further questions?
Well, may this witness be excused and released.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You're released from this trial.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Statement, call us next witness.
State calls Detective Christopher Trainer.
Your jurors need to stand up and stretch for a moment, please do. Sir, once you're settled, I'll ask you to remain standing. Remove your mask if you're comfortable doing so, and the clerk will swear you in.
Under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated. And then because we're being recorded, I'll ask you to please state and spell your first and last name.
Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Trainer, T-R-A-Y-N-O-R.
Thank you. Mr. Kalbaugh.
Thank you. Sir, what is it you do for a living?
I'm a detective for the Portland Police Bureau.
And were you working as a detective for the Portland Police Bureau in May of 2019 and shortly thereafter?
I was.
Were you assigned to do any sort of investigation regarding an incident that occurred at a location called the Cider Riot on May 1st of 2019?
I was.
When were you assigned to be involved in that?
I think it was the day after, so May 2nd, 2018.
And as a detective, what sort of crimes do you normally investigate, or were you investigating in May of 2019?
I was back then. I still am an assault detective, so we typically investigate serious assaults.
And were you, so I'm just going to ask, were you then investigating it because someone got hit over the head with a metal asp or a baton?
Correct, yes.
through your investigation, did you end up locating video footage, lots of video footage on the internet?
I did, yes.
And was one of those videos a video of Joey Gibson live streaming the incident?
Yes, it was.
Was another video a video from a series called Millsap, Stumptown Matters?
It was, yes.
And in those videos, oh, another question I had for you before I get to the videos and play them. As a detective investigating this case, are you able to testify as to whether anyone called 911? I don't need to know what they said, but whether anyone called, and if so, how many people may have called 911 in relation to this May 1st, 2019 incident?
Yes, the records, I asked for records from BOEC, Bureau of Emergency Communication, 911.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
And I can find reference to 13 calls, but I asked for a disc of all the calls. I got a disc with 19 in total. Now, some of those may be after the fact.
People calling him, is it some of them could be people calling him and calling back saying, I mean, is that, would it only reflect?
Or they could be people who, when I asked for the disc of all calls related, those would have been including people who called. For example, there was a lady who had a car damaged who filed a police report.
So 13 definite, potentially 19, just depending on how related or unrelated they may be?
Right.
Okay. And is just that the way BOEC works? If it's a related incident, it may show up later, but attaching report?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I asked you a second ago then about gathering video. Is it fair to say that you also watched?
It is fair to say that.
Okay. And if we play that video, are you able to identify a number of key players in the video?
I am, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to direct your attention to the screen, and I'm going to ask the court's permission to publish to the jury what's previously been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 2.
You may.
Cross my fingers that my audio works.
There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk. There's a public sidewalk.
I'm going to pause it real quick. So, let's see here. I'm going to ask you, normally I'd have you use this pointer thing we have, but defense counsel's there and I don't want you leaning over everyone. So I'm going to ask you to describe, are you able to recognize any of the individuals in this particular photo? Or this still of the video that was just playing?
Are we asking about the 3 defendants, or are we asking for?
I'm going to ask you to start with the person holding the phone directly in the middle. Who is that?
That's Mr. Joey Gibson.
And how do you know that?
A well-known individual, shall we say.
He said it here in court.
He has, this is his own.
So let's, I'm going to thank the witness, ask him to stop his answer. Maybe that's a different question from Mr. Kalbaugh.
Thank you, Judge. As Mr. Gibson seated here in court today, that may be a better way to get to it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. How about the person directly to over Mr. Gibson's left shoulder, where with the similar shirt, he's got red sleeves coming down?
That's Mr. Schultz.
And is Mr. Schultz seated in the courtroom here today?
He is.
There's another man directly to Mr. Schultz's left who has a helmet and sunglasses and a beard and little looks like a backpack with a little orange stripe on it. Can you see that individual?
I can.
Do you recognize that individual?
That's Mr. Mackenzie, yes.
And is Mr. Mackenzie or Mr. Lewis?
Excuse me, Mr. Lewis.
Lewis. His first name Mackenzie?
Yes.
Yeah. Is he seated here in the courtroom today?
He is, yes.
Yeah. There's a man kind of in the back. He's crossing the intersection, and it looks like he has green and blue and white striped clothes, maybe camouflage pants, maybe a backpack as well. Do you see that individual?
I do, yes.
And I know that we'll get better shots of him as this goes forward, but are you able to identify that person?
Yes, that is Demi Cooper.
Demi Cooper. Yeah. And there's a man to Mr. Cooper's left, pretty far back as well, who has a black backpack, appears to be wearing tan clothing. Are you able to identify him from this photo still, or do I need to keep playing?
That's Chris Ponte. I do recognize him.
That's Chris Ponte. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to get you to the video.
It's a public sidewalk. Hey, de-escalate a little bit. De-escalate. It's a public sidewalk. Hey, it's Antifa right here. Check it out.
Damascus, let's go, Damascus. Damascus is a little fucking fast. Look, Damascus, go ahead, Joey. Damascus, right here, bitch.
How do you drink beer?
I'm going to pause it again. Similar questions I asked last time. I'm going to ask you to see if you could identify some other folks, and if you can, please do, and if you cannot, please let me know. Do you see Mr. Lewis with the flag? You already identified him.
Yes.
To his left, there appears to be a man wearing a helmet with a face shield, and he's got a gray shirt and a pair of shorts. Do you see that man?
I do, yes.
And he's holding like looks like maybe a flag that's black wrapped up on a pole.
Yes.
Are you able to identify that individual?
I think that's Mr. Willis. I'd have to go through my notes.
Okay. I'll ask you to do that in a minute. And first I want to see who else you can. So if you have to go through your notes, you can do it all at once. And is that your notes right in front of you in that big binder?
Yes.
To that individual's left, there's a man wearing a red baseball cap. He has sunglasses. He's holding what appears to be an American flag rolled up on a pole. Are you able to identify that individual?
No, I'd have to, again, go through my notes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll ask you to do that when we get a second. Those will be the two that I'll ask you to follow up on. And on the other side of the screen, there is a individual with a black leather jacket. There appears to be a red skull and crossbones on it, and it's got some sort of black fabric on her head and a mask, which will be yanked down shortly, fairly short. Do you recognize that individual?
I do, yes.
And are you able to identify that person?
Yeah, yes, that is Canary, or Canary, I think, is the name on her Oregon driver's license now.
All right. And there's a man in the foreground with his back to the filmmaker. He appears to be wearing a black hoodie, and he appears to be engaging in some sort of verbal communications with Mr. Lewis. Do you see the person I'm talking about?
I do, yes.
And obviously it's from behind him, but we're going to see more video. Were you able to identify that individual?
I was no.
Okay. I'm going to continue playing the video.
Calm down. I ain't no pussy. Where's the right? Your mask. You want another MI? Go ahead. It's ticking. It's a mild You have no idea what I had. You have no idea what I had. The intelligence is worse. Damn it, I already did. You did? I did. You did? You're so proud of yourself. I bet you guys used to be yellow. Do something. Do something. Look at that. Your guys spit on me, and now you got their spit. Do something wrong. Fucking animals spit. Talk it up. What's wrong? You don't like brown boys? They don't love the little tiny. Hey, that was my best video. Big man, you want to fuck brown boys? I watched that thing 4 times before I decided to send it.
Yeah, your shirt says
That's crazy. Fucking stand down! Oh no! Oh no! A riot happened at Cider Riot! There's a riot at Cider Riot! Sorry, fuck off, dude. Fuck off with your glass bottle bullshit, fuckers.
And Detective, I paused it briefly. There's a man in the foreground who appears to have an American flag on his helmet with a backpack, shorts, and he's holding something in his right hand. It may be a baton. Are you able to identify that individual?
Yes, that is Ian Kramer.
And there's a individual, maybe harder to make out, in the middle of the group that's in the beer garden, so to speak. There's an individual wearing a black T-shirt and a black hat. Earlier, you may have, it appeared he discharged a large volume of pepper spray early on in the altercation. Do you know the individual I'm talking about?
I'm not sure, no.
All right, we'll get a close-up of him later, and I'll come back and ask if you can identify him.
Okay.
All right? It's hard from this angle. There's a lot of folks together. All right, I'm going to continue playing the video. He just threw something.
Yes, I was never able to identify that individual.
When he threw something, you saw the guy I was talking about?
I did, yes.
Thank you, okay. And when we come around to him again, I'll just make sure we're talking about the same person to see if you're able to identify him.
Okay.
Detective, I had to try to go back a little bit. I tried to stop it in time. There was an individual who just discharged pepper spray, who was appeared to be wearing black clothing. I'll try to back it up here. Do you see this individual in the front holding what appears to be a can of pepper spray?
Yes.
I know that it's hard to see from this angle, but as it continues through, are you able to testify whether you were able to identify that individual?
No, I was never able to identify her.
That's this. I like the fact you have the silly spray and not the pepper spray like everybody else. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking kudos. That's what I would prefer. You want to know where to hang out? Sign up for rumors. Sign up for rumors. Sign up. Oh shit.
Were you able to identify this individual who appears to be having his hands down to his sides and fists with what appears brass knuckles?
No, I did not identify that individual.
Just fucking jack this camera. Take care of this. These are all skills, dude. Get the fuck out of here. I was on Sunday. I was on Sunday.
Yeah. Hey, go back to your jurisdiction. Why are you here? To expose you. Why would they act that way? They can come to our bar. We want to talk to them. Is that okay? Is this okay? Is this Yeah, you want some? Come on, come over here, bitch. Where the cops? Where Cavaliers? Don't let this cop. Where the leftist cops? Where the leftist cops? Protecting you. Protecting you. You never lived in a right-wing town. I'm the real collectivist.
What they bust about $1,000 for equipment on you? Just the lands, or is your housing still okay?
You're deracinated like Mark said. You're deracinated like Mark said. You want some fucking shit?
And this individual who's currently in the foreground of the video, detective, he's wearing a black jacket and he appears to have glasses with a black mask. Do you see the individual I'm discussing?
I do, yeah.
Were you ever able to identify this individual?
We were, yeah.
And I believe, does he later get into a fist fight with one of the other individuals I've already asked you about?
He does, yeah.
Okay, I'll keep playing the video. Oh, well, who is he?
I would have to look at my notes because I would butcher his name.
I'll ask you to look at your notes and do all three at once. Looks like we're gonna get close to time, so we're gonna have time tomorrow too, but I'm gonna keep playing the video to try to get to the end of it today. Okay?
think we need protection because they were less than you. Oh. That's why you're white supremacist. I'm enjoying Gibson fucking promo clip once again. Good job. Pressing Joey's brand. Good job. Hey, let's be here. What'll happen? People. You want to control people. You want to control women. You want to control everybody who's not just like you. Fuck you. Put them on all. Calm down. You fucking coward. Calm down. Calm down. You want to calm down? Does that mean you're aggressive? Does that mean you're aggressive? You fucking dummy. Fuck you. You have people doing violence. You got shit. You have people doing violence. You're aggressive. You just wanted a beer. Come on.
Have we got any fucking milk? Milk? Get you the cowboy and his girl. Pass that shit? Shit. Pass some shit? Yeah, go for it. Leak him in.
Does Portland not send the police out anymore? I mean, they don't have enough officers.
David! Hey, crap. Pull the fuck out. Guys, get full of that. Thanks. Like this, viral. Oh, you all right, brother? Yeah, I just got teeth. Very good. Oh. What's that? She's got them. Your forehead, it keeps leaking down into my eyes. From your forehead. Hey, come back here so you can fix that. David. David, get the fuck out of here. I can't let you see it. Jake, 2 minutes. sorry you got popped, brother. I just walk by and make noise. It's cool. Yay, we're done! Hey. What did I fucking do for that? The fuck did I do to deserve that? Unless someone else wants to fight. I walked away, I turned around, I never went right, and I got them out. Oh, fuck.
We believe in something. You may not believe in it, you may not like it, but we believe in something and we want to stand for it. There is no need for blame, there is no need for torture, and there is no need for violence. And I do not convict that, but we are believing here for something. Look at your laws, look at your rights, and choose a side you want to be on. That's not okay. I'm dirty. I'm homeless. I live here. I do rights. I pay taxes. You don't like it? Then there's something wrong with your humanity. Figure it the fuck out. There is no need for violence.
Hey, you gotta go! You're honorable! I'm Fall back! You stay back! Fall back! Fall back! You will fall back! Fall back! Hold my camera! Hold my camera! Hold my camera! Hold my camera! No! We'll back it off!
And Detective, I know we're almost out of time. We're gonna have to pick up tomorrow, but as far as what this person right here on the screen in front of us appears to be holding something in his hand, are you able to discern what that is? Or are you able to testify as to what that is, having viewed this video numerous times?
It appears to me to be a sap.
What is that?
A sap is a leather pocket filled with some other objects, ball bearings, sand, something like that, and then sewn together, it makes a effective weapon. The reason I recognize it's a sap is because long before I was hired, policemen used to carry saps, and so I've seen them.
You've seen them before, thank you. And just moments before this, there was a man with a black kind of top on his face and a white shirt holding something that was hard to tell what that was. Maybe a knife, maybe an asp baton. Do you know the person I'm talking about?
I don't know the individual. We were never able to identify him, but that appears to be an asp.
That appears to be what?
Appears to be an asp.
An asp?
Asp baton.
And then is that similar to the one that Mr. Kramer used to hit Miss Clark over the head?
It appears similar.
Hard to say.
But we obviously never recovered that one.
And you anticipated my question. Were you able to identify that guy?
No, neither of the two individuals you've referred to were identified.
Oh, and just so it's clear on the record, what is an asp baton? You explained what a sap is. What is an asp baton?
Asp baton is a collapsible metal baton. Again, I know it because they issue them to the police. It's approximately 8 inches in length. And when you deploy it, you'll find out that there are thinner and thinner and thinner pieces inside of it, ending in a round knob at the end. I think it ultimately is about 18 inches, 24 inches in length, and it's used as a striking weapon.
So a weapon also?
Yes.
Thank you. So Judge, it's 4:57. I think I've gone about as close as I can to 5 o'clock. I've got a little bit left here, but I can, if the court's permission, I can finish up tomorrow.
I think that's what we're going to do, Mr. Kalbaugh. Thank you. Members of the jury, thank you so much for your work and your attention, your diligence today. This is the time when my instructions to you, which you've now heard a number of times, really carry their weight. This is the time when friends and family members are going to be very curious. What have you seen? What do you think? What are you going to do? This is the time to remember that the order of this court is that you not discuss this case with anybody, not even at this stage with each other, and that you resist the temptation, which is only natural, to do any independent research into any of the things or people or places or laws that are involved in this case. I know you've all been excellent about that up to now. We've heard from some of you about that. I have no doubt you'll continue to follow those orders, but I want to emphasize just how important they are, even if as we go along they get a little harder to follow. I'll invite you to please leave your notebooks on your chairs. Please follow the clerk back to the jury room. Please stay in the jury room just for a moment, and then court staff will come and bring you back downstairs. Have a lovely evening. Please be back in the jury room tomorrow morning, ready to go at 9 a.m. Again, use that code, jury room here on the 16th floor, 9 a.m. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening. We'll go off the record.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like we are getting finished up here. I think I'm gonna, work on being ready for 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, as far as, and I don't want to share out the records, but I have seen the restraining order with Chandler's uncle, and those are some pretty bad pictures from the hospital. Anyway.
Briefly back on the record. We're back on the record. We are outside the presence of the jury. All counsel, all parties are present. Mr. Lee, you wish to be heard.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, we had motions in limine in this case for the court order that this particular detective could not characterize what is observable in the videos because he was not there. That was a very clear motion in limine the court entered. There's a man in the video. The prosecution asked about the man in the white shirt, black hat. He asked a series of questions asking the detective to go beyond his personal knowledge and characterize with his opinion what is in the video. Specifically, he testified that his opinion, he didn't use the word opinion, but he said, oh no, that's not a knife, that's an axe. That's open to anyone's interpretation based on the video. It's a violation of the motion in limine.
I was looking and waiting for an objection. I did not hear one, Mr. Lee.
And I didn't want to do that at that time in front of the jury because we had the motion standing. So this is my first opportunity. I'm raising that issue now. I'd ask that that testimony be stricken from the record and that counsel not be able to argue that testimony in closing argument.
Okay. Mr. Kalbaugh?
Well, to date, we have a video. We have a detective who's testified that he's watched the video numerous times and that he knows from personal experience what he's looking at in that video. So I don't believe this is a detective characterizing whether someone's actions are taunting or anything else, which, as if I'm referring to the correct motion, I believe that was the
I think
issue.
this was motion 3. I think this was the narrating.
And I don't believe he narrated. I asked questions. It was also about a SAP where he testified to what he knew that was and how he knew what that was. So
I likewise did not hear any objection to that.
Yeah.
I understand here now the somewhat late objection is to the detective's testimony as to whether he could identify what was in the hand of the person. I think it was a white shirt with a black print.
Yeah.
I believe Mr. Lee's point is that evidence is as readily available to this witness as it is to the jury. This detective has no particular special knowledge that informs his testimony beyond what the jury can see for itself. He can certainly testify to what an asp is.
And he testified to how he knows what that is. As a police officer, there was something issued to the police. I have no reason to believe that people on a jury would know what an asp is or a SAP for that matter.
Different issue. The question that I understand there is not an objection to is what's an asp. Fair enough. The question is whether or not this witness has the ability to more readily identify what is in that person's hand than is the jury when this detective has the exact same access to the exact same information, that is to say the video, as the jury has. I think that question and answer does fall within the ambit of the court's earlier ruling. I am going to strike the testimony in the morning as to what that person in the white shirt and the black print had in their hand. With that said, this is not a game that I'm inclined to continue to play, where we allow testimony to go and then much later we take up whether or not we're going to strike it. That's going to confuse the jury. It's going to slow things down. If there needs to be an objection, I expect that objection to be made in a timely way. Moreover, if it's an objection that's going to require more speaking than is appropriate in front of the jury, I have no problem with someone letting me know that they have a matter for the court, and we can either go outside and talk about it or we can excuse the jury. But I don't, in the absence of extraordinary circumstances, I will probably in the future determine that that kind of objection is waived if it's not made in a timely way.
Thank you. Your Honor, based on the issue of it being untimely and the fact that Your Honor is concerned that it's going to confuse the jury, the state shares that concern, and if it makes no sense for the detective to be able to testify to what a SAP is. If this is violating of the court's order, then the state would ask you to simply, if you're going to strike the testimony about whether it's an asp or it's a knife, just, I guess, strike the baton as well, so the jury's not confused as to why he's allowed to testify to what one is.
Strike the SAP as well?
I think so. It makes no sense otherwise. I don't want to confuse them.
Nobody has asked me to do that. You're now asking me to do that.
I'm asking you to do it just to keep the jury from getting confused.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So the SAP and the alleged asp will be stricken and are out. We need to, for the sake of the court staff, that's where we need to leave it today. We've got the jury at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, I ask all parties to be present and ready to go at 9 a.m. If everyone can hang around for just 10 seconds after we go off the record. Thank you all for keeping us on track today. We will go off the record.
Okay, so yeah, 9 o'clock start tomorrow. I will plan to have the stream up and running about 8:45, 8:50, something like that. I don't know why they're saying it's a problem for him to identify his knowledge of likely street weapons, but I guess that's where we are now. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. See you tomorrow, and feel free to like, subscribe, share the video, and if you want to do more, we've got more information link in the video description. Take care, and see you all tomorrow.